Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley campaigns across New Hampshire on Monday, hoping to stall Donald Trump's march to the 2024 Republican presidential nomination with an upset victory in the state's primary vote on Tuesday. 8 days after Trump coasted to a record-setting win in Iowa's first-in-the-nation contest, the former president is aiming to deliver a fatal blow to Haley's upstart campaign by notching another commanding victory. The race was transformed into a one-on-one battle on Sunday, when Florida Governor Ron DeSantis ended his struggling campaign after he and Haley jockeyed to emerge as the leading Trump alternative. All other major candidates dropped out after Iowa. For Haley, New Hampshire represents perhaps her final chance to prove the Republican base could consider someone other than Trump, who has rallied the party's faithful despite facing 91 felony counts. He has pleaded not guilty to every crime, claiming he is the victim of political persecution. Haley is holding 5 campaign events on Monday, finishing with an evening rally in Salem, a suburb of Boston. Trump is having just one event, a 9 p.m. Eastern Time rally in the central town of Laconia. The state's large number of independent voters, who are permitted to cast ballots in Tuesday's election, make New Hampshire friendlier turf for Haley than more conservative Iowa. Even so, Trump holds a double-digit lead in most statewide public polls. While DeSantis had only around 6% support, he endorsed Trump upon leaving the race on Sunday, and his backers are more likely to transfer their allegiance to Trump, according to pollsters. A Haley victory could give her campaign the momentum and fundraising it needs ahead of the next nominating contest on February 24 in South Carolina, her home state where she served 2 terms as governor. A Trump victory, meanwhile, would add to the air of inevitability he has sought to create around his candidacy. Trump has won the endorsement of lawmakers from Haley's home state, including Senator Tim Scott, who had campaigned for the nomination. On Monday, Nancy Mace, another South Carolina lawmaker, endorsed Trump and said it was time to unite behind our nominee. Haley won the endorsement on Monday of former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, a Trump critic who staged a presidential campaign but dropped out after struggling to gain traction. The winner of this year's Republican nominating contests will take on President Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic nominee, in November's general election. While the Republican rivals campaign in New Hampshire, Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris will kick off a series of events intended to highlight Republican-backed limits on abortion that Democrats generally oppose. Monday is the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the decision that established a nationwide right to abortion until the U.S. Supreme Court reversed it in 2022, galvanizing Democratic voters. Trump to attend trial. Trump had been expected to spend the morning and potentially testify in a New York courtroom in a defamation case brought against him by author E. Jean Carroll, who says he raped her decades ago. Trump accuses Carroll of making up the story to boost her memoir. But the trial was postponed to Tuesday after a juror reported feeling ill and a parent of Trump's lead lawyer tested positive for COVID-19. The judge in the trial said he will decide later whether to let Trump testify on Wednesday, so he can be in New Hampshire for Tuesday's vote. As with his criminal cases, which he has frequently used in fundraising pleas, Trump has portrayed the E. Jean Carroll case as part of a broader conspiracy by liberal forces to derail his candidacy. A separate jury last May found Trump civilly liable for sexually abusing Carroll and ordered him to pay $5 million in damages, a result Trump called a disgrace. In recent days, Haley, 52, has intensified her attacks on Trump, asserting the 77-year-old has suffered some cognitive decline since his time in the White House and criticizing him for embracing authoritarian foreign leaders. At a rally on Sunday in Rochester, New Hampshire, Trump accused Haley of relying on an unholy alliance of liberals, never-Trumpers who oppose him and rhinos, or Republicans in name only. He has used a version of her given first name, Nimarata, as an insult and amplified false posts on social media questioning her birthright U.S. citizenship. Haley is the daughter of Indian immigrants and was born in South Carolina. A New Hampshire primary election poll released on Monday shows that former President Donald Trump is leading by a significant margin. The poll also indicates that more independent voters intend to cast ballots on Tuesday. Trump's popularity rose to 52% in the Monmouth University/Washington Post poll of 712 New Hampshire voters who could vote in the GOP primary, from 46% in the previous survey carried out in November 2023. Stay tuned for all the latest updates on Rammander. Click here. According to the poll conducted from January 16 to 20, the current primary is less of an interactive event than it was in 2016. While 52% of prospective voters say they will vote for Trump in Tuesday's Republican primary, 34% say they would vote for former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. Though Haley's percentage of the vote has risen by 16 points since November, Trump's lead has remained constant. His support has actually increased since the decline as well. It is now up 6 points from 46%. With a support percentage of 8%, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is well behind the leaders and essentially steady from 7% in November. The percentage of registered independent voters who indicate they intend to cast a Republican ballot increased from 52% in November to 63% in January. Notably for Haley, a third of those independent voters claim to have supported Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden in the 2020 contest. Despite Haley's larger lead among these independent voters, the poll indicates that even a rise in the number of independent votes is not likely to be enough to narrow the gap with Trump. The former president has the backing of 38% of independent voters, while Haley has 48% of them. The question arises here is that why the race for the New Hampshire Republican presidential primary is crucial. The reason is Iowa picks corn, New Hampshire picks presidents, asserted former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu. Voters tend to trust Trump over Haley over broad range of issues, poll. New Hampshire potential Republican primary voters generally have more faith in Trump than in Haley on an extensive range of issues. The former president excels in immigration policy. 62% of respondents have more confidence in him to handle this matter than in Haley, 26%. Regarding who voters trust more to manage abortion policy, the split is slightly wider. 40% of voters trust Trump, 29% trust Haley, and 22% trust both equally. If Trump emerges victorious, as the polls indicate, he will be positioned to secure the Republican nominee without facing a significant challenge. After his astounding Iowa caucus's win, Trump is also hoping for another victory in New Hampshire, the state that initially helped him clinch the GOP nominee in 2016. In a December 2023 CBS poll conducted in New Hampshire, Trump maintained a double-digit lead against Haley, with 44% of probable GOP primary voters supporting him. But that survey was conducted before the withdrawal of Ron DeSantis, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. What's next after New Hampshire? After New Hampshire, the focus is going to shift on Nevada, which will hold state-run primary on February 6 and a party caucus on February 8. Delegates will be chosen by the party based on the caucus. Haley won't be on the ballot, but Trump will be there. Trump is not going to be on the primary ballot, but Haley is. The contenders have not made Nevada a priority, and there has been just roughly $1 million spent till now. However, in New Hampshire, $77.5 million has been spent on campaign ads since the beginning of last year, according to data compiled by the ad tracking firm Ad Impact and analyzed by NPR. Haley and her supporters have been the biggest spenders. Team Haley has spent $30.9 million, which has doubled than Trump and his allies, as they have poured in $15.7 million. If Trump wins the New Hampshire primary, he is likely to cruise through the remaining primaries to become the nominee to face President Joe Biden in November. Conversely, the Trump camp is aware that a close finish would send the opposite signal, that a hefty portion of the Republican electorate is still looking for someone else. But in case Haley overperforms on Tuesday, that could see her regain buzz in time for the next primary in her home state of South Carolina in late February, AFP reported. Her win in New Hampshire would amount to a political earthquake. It is likely to energize the anti-Trump forces in the party. But even then, in the worst-case scenario, Trump would remain the favorite for the nomination to take on Democratic President Joe Biden in November. In another case, a close second-place finish by Haley would allow her to contend that the anti-Trump vote should coalesce around her, particularly now that DeSantis is out of the race.